The colony was busy that day. The market was full of voices, footsteps, and the smell of dust. Traders shouted about prices. Children ran with laughter. Everyone moved quickly, as if life had no time to stop. But then, something strange happened. From the edge of the colony road, a figure walked slowly. People turned their heads. Their voices went quiet. Step by step, she came closer. It was not a human woman. Her skin had a pale silver shade. Her hair was long, tangled with dirt, and her clothes were torn as if she had walked through storms. Her eyes, wide and tired, searched for kindness, but all she found were stares. The crowd moved aside, not to welcome her, but to avoid her. Some whispered, some laughed. "Look at her," a man said. "Filthy creature." A child pointed, hiding behind his mother. "Is she even alive?" The alien woman's legs were weak. Her steps shook as if every movement was painful. She stopped near the center of the street, in front of the water well. She tried to speak, but her voice was soft, broken. "Please, water." For a moment, silence. Then the market burst into laughter. A woman selling fruit shouted, "We don't serve animals here." Another man threw a piece of rotten bread on the ground. "Eat from the dirt. That's where you belong." The alien woman bent down slowly, not for the bread, but because her strength was leaving her. Her knees touched the dust, her hands pressed into the ground. She tried to lift her head with dignity, but a group of young men circled her. One of them smirked. "What are you doing here, freak?" He pushed her shoulder and she fell. Another one laughed and kicked mud from the side of the road. It splashed across her face. The crowd cheered. "Filthy alien, crawl in the dirt." She closed her eyes. The mud was cold on her cheek. Her body shook, not from anger, but from shame. She was far from her people, far from her world. Now she was nothing more than a spectacle, a poor creature in the eyes of strangers. Yet, in that moment of cruelty, not everyone was laughing. A man stood in the shadow of a small shop. He was quiet, watching. His face did not show mockery. His eyes were steady, calm. He saw her differently. While others only saw weakness, he noticed something else. There was strength hidden in her. It was in the way she tried to rise again, even when pushed down. It was in the way she did not beg loudly, but held her silence with pride. But the crowd did not stop. A woman threw a bucket of dirty water at her. The splash made the alien cough. The mud spread all over her torn clothes. The crowd laughed harder, shouting words she could not understand. The alien woman pressed her palms into the ground and tried to push herself up. Her arms trembled, but she stood on her knees. Her silver eyes lifted to the sky as if searching for something far away, something beyond this cruel world. The laughter echoed around her, but inside she held a memory. She remembered her home, her people, the stars. She remembered that once she was more than this. The man in the shadows clenched his fists. He wanted to step forward, but he did not move. Not yet. He knew the cruelty of the crowd. To stand against them now would only bring more danger. So he watched, his heart heavy, his mind already making a choice. He did not speak aloud. As the alien woman stayed on her knees, a small boy walked near. He held a piece of clean bread. For a moment, there was hope. Maybe a child's heart was softer. But the boy's mother snatched his hand and pulled him back. "Don't touch her," she hissed. "She's nothing." The bread fell into the dust. The alien woman looked at it, but she did not move. Not this time. She would not crawl again. The sun above burned hot. Sweat and mud mixed on her skin, around her. In the colony's people grew bored. The laughter turned back into chatter. One by one, they walked away. For them, the entertainment was over. The alien woman was left alone in the dirt, broken and humiliated. But one pair of eyes still watched. The quiet man stepped away from the shop shadow and walked into the distance. His thoughts were heavy. Why is she here? Who is she? And deep inside, he knew. This story was not finished. The alien woman lifted her head once more. In her eyes, behind the pain, there was something more. A spark. Something waiting to be revealed. And that spark would change everything. The colony slowly returned to its rhythm. The laughter, the shouting, the insults. They all faded as people went back to their stalls, their trading, their lives. But one man did not move on so easily. He was still there, standing near the shadow of the old shop, his eyes fixed on the alien woman who now sat silently in the mud. His name was Jonas, a quiet man, not known for bold words or loud actions. He was a builder, someone who repaired roofs, carved wood, and fixed what was broken. Most people hardly noticed him. He blended into the background, like stone in the road. But Jonas noticed everything, and that day he noticed her. He had watched the crowd mock her. He had seen her pushed into the mud. He had seen her humiliated, and yet, she did not scream, she did not beg. She endured the cruelty with a silence that spoke louder than any words. To Jonas, this was not weakness. It was strength, hidden under shame. The alien woman sat still, her silver eyes downcast. Mud streaked her face, her clothes clung to her body, and her hands trembled from exhaustion. She looked defeated, but Jonas sensed something else, something the others could not see. As the sun dipped lower, most people drifted away. Jonas finally stepped out from the shadow. He walked slowly, careful not to draw attention. His boots pressed into the dirt, each step steady. He stopped a few paces away from her. She lifted her head slightly, noticing him. Her eyes narrowed, expecting another insult, another cruel laugh. But Jonas said nothing. He only looked at her, and then, without a word, he reached into his bag. He pulled out a small water flask. The metal was dented, scratched from use, but it was full. He held it out. The alien woman stared at it. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Her body wanted to reach for it, but her pride held her still. She did not trust him. Why should she? All the others had mocked her. Why would he be different? Jonas knelt slowly, lowering himself to her level. His voice was calm, low, simple. Drink, you need it. For a moment, time froze. The street felt empty, though a few eyes still lingered from a distance. The alien woman hesitated. Then, with weak hands, she reached out. Her fingers touched the flask, shaking. Jonas let it go, watching as she lifted it to her lips. She drank greedily, the water spilling down her chin, mixing with mud. When she finished, her eyes softened slightly. Still suspicious, still guarded, but there was a flicker of relief. Jonas sat back on his heels. He wanted to ask questions, but he kept them inside. He did not want to scare her with words. Instead, he studied her carefully. Her silver skin seemed dull, almost lifeless, but in the fading light, he noticed faint patterns along her arms, lines that glowed faintly, as if her body carried light within it. She pulled her arms close, hiding them. She did not want him to see, but Jonas had seen enough to know. She was not ordinary. "Why are you here?" he finally asked, voice quiet. Her head lowered again. She did not answer. Instead, she wrapped her arms tighter, shivering even though the air was warm. Jonas sighed. He knew she would not trust him yet. Trust was not given in a single moment, not after so much cruelty, but he could not leave her like this. He stood and looked around. People had turned away, but whispers still carried. He could almost hear their thoughts. Why is he helping her? What is he doing with that creature? Jonas ignored them. He leaned down again and spoke firmly. "You can't stay here. They will come back. They will hurt you again." Her eyes flickered with fear. She knew he was right. Jonas extended his hand. His palm was rough, scarred from years of work, but steady. She looked at it for a long time. Her pride fought with her fear. To take his hand would mean trust, but to refuse could mean danger. Finally, slowly, she placed her trembling hand in his. Jonas pulled her gently to her feet. She stumbled, weak, but he held her steady. For a moment their eyes met, his brown and human, hers silver and alien. Something unspoken passed between them. Without another word, Jonas led her away from the center of the colony, away from the stairs, into the narrow alleys where shadows offered cover. The road was rough and her steps faltered often, but he did not let go. They walked until the market noise was gone, replaced by the quiet hum of insects and the whisper of wind against metal roofs. Jonas guided her to an old workshop at the edge of town. The door creaked as he pushed it open. Inside, it smelled of wood, oil, and dust. Not much, but safe. "Sit," he said softly, pointing to a bench. She obeyed, lowering herself slowly. Jonas brought a small lantern to life. The warm glow filled the room, chasing away shadows. He placed a piece of bread and dried fruit before her. She stared at it, hesitant, but hunger won. She ate in silence, every bite slow, as if afraid it would be her last. Jonas watched quietly, his mind filled with questions. Who was she? Why had she come here? What danger followed her? But he asked nothing more that night. Instead, he said only one thing before leaving her to rest. "You are safe here. For now." The alien woman looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the lantern's glow. For the first time since her arrival, there was no humiliation, no laughter, no mud. There was only silence. And the strange feeling that maybe, just maybe, she had found someone who valued her. Night fell over the colony. The busy noise of the market faded into silence. Lanterns glowed faintly in the streets, but the alleys grew darker, filled with shadows. The stars above were sharp and cold, scattered like diamonds in the endless black dot. Inside the old workshop, the alien woman sat on the wooden bench where Jonas had left her. Her body was still weak, her arms wrapped around herself for warmth. She listened carefully to the night sounds, the barking of dogs, the distant laughter of drunk men, the clatter of metal doors being closed. But under it all, she felt something else. Danger. She had lived too long in fear to mistake the signs. Somewhere out there, she knew someone was looking for her. Jonas returned quietly. He carried a small blanket and set it over her shoulders. "You should rest," he said. His voice was calm, steady, as if trying to hold back questions. The alien woman looked at him, her silver eyes filled with suspicion. "Why help me?" she asked at last. Her voice was broken, rough, but her words were clear. Jonas sat on a stool across from her. He thought for a moment before answering. "Because nobody else would. And because I saw something in you, something they didn't." She tilted her head slightly, confused. "What do you see?" Jonas studied her carefully. "Strength. Not the kind people cheer for. The kind that survives when the world spits on you. Most would have begged. You didn't." Her lips pressed together. She looked away, hiding her face in the shadows. For a long time, she said nothing. Jonas leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You don't have to tell me who you are. Not yet. But you can't stay in the open. They'll come for you." Her body stiffened. She knew it was true. She whispered almost to herself, "They always come." Jonas frowned. "Who?" Her eyes flickered with fear. "Hunters. They track my kind. They do not stop." Jonas didn't fully understand, but he saw enough in her trembling hands to know the danger was real. He stood and began checking the door, the windows, the locks. His workshop was small, but it could hold secrets if kept quiet. He turned back to her. "You can stay here tonight. No one will bother us. But if they search the colony tomorrow..." He stopped. The thought hung heavy. The alien woman clutched the blanket tighter. For the first time, her voice softened. "Why risk yourself for me? You owe me nothing." Jonas paused. He thought of the crowd that had laughed at her, the mud on her face, the loneliness in her eyes. "Maybe because I know what it feels like," he said at last. "To be treated as nothing. To be invisible." Her gaze shifted to him, searching. In her world, trust was a rare thing. But in his tone, there was no mockery, no pity, only honesty. The room fell quiet again. The lantern burned low. Jonas prepared a small corner with straw and cloth for her to sleep. "Rest. I'll keep watch." The alien woman lay down slowly, her body weak but her mind still awake. She closed her eyes, but sleep did not come easily. Memories haunted her homeworld in flames, her people chained, the sound of soldiers shouting in a language she wished she could forget. She remembered running, always running, across stars and worlds. Until here. She opened her eyes and looked at Jonas. He sat by the door, his hands busy with a small knife and a block of wood, carving quietly. He looked ordinary, but to her, in this moment, he seemed extraordinary. For the first time since she had fled her world, she did not feel completely alone. Outside, the night deepened. A wind carried strange whispers through the alleys. Jonas's ears caught something, a crunch of boots on gravel, a murmur of low voices. He froze. He stood quickly and blew out the lantern. Darkness filled the workshop. The alien woman sat up, alarmed. Jonas pressed a finger to his lip. "It's quiet," he whispered. Voices grew clearer outside. Men were searching, their steps slow, deliberate. Jonas heard one of them say, "She was seen here today. The creature. We'll find her." The alien woman's heart pounded. She clutched the blanket as if it could make her disappear. Jonas moved closer to her, keeping his voice low. "Don't move. Don't make a sound." The men passed by the workshop. One of them rattled the door, testing it. Jonas held his breath. The alien woman closed her eyes, praying silently in a language Jonas did not know. After a long pause, the footsteps faded. The voices moved on. Only when the night grew quiet again did Jonas breathe out slowly. He turned to her. Even in the dark, he could see her fear. He whispered, "You're safe. For now." She looked at him, her silver eyes shimmering in the faint starlight through the window. For the first time, there was no suspicion in her gaze. Only trust. Jonas knew then that this was no simple act of kindness. This was the beginning of something larger, something dangerous. Helping her meant danger for himself, too. But deep inside, he had already made his choice. The alien woman lay back down, but this time she allowed herself to close her eyes fully. She whispered softly, almost too quiet to hear, "Thank you." Jonas stayed awake, listening to the silence outside, ready for any sound. The night was long, but he did not waver. He had rescued her from humiliation and now from the hunters. And though he did not yet know why, he felt certain this was only the start of their story. Morning light crept through the cracks of the workshop. Dust floated in the beams of sunlight, golden and soft. Jonas had not slept. He sat by the door, eyes heavy but alert, listening for trouble. Outside, the colony was waking. Merchants shouted again. Children laughed. Life went on, as if nothing had happened. But inside the workshop, silence lived. The alien woman opened her eyes slowly. For the first time in days, she had slept more than a few moments. She sat up, clutching the blanket around her shoulders, and looked around. Jonas was still there, watching, guarding Dot. He handed her a small cup of water. "Drink," he said. She obeyed, sipping quietly. Her eyes never left his face. Jonas spoke carefully. "They were looking for you last night. Men in the alleys. Who are they? Why are they hunting you?" She stiffened. Her hands shook as she lowered the cup. For a moment she said nothing. Her silver eyes grew dark, filled with shadows of memory. Jonas leaned forward. "If I'm going to help you, I need to know. You can trust me." Trust. The word struck her like a stone. On her world, trust had been shattered long ago. She closed her eyes, breathing slowly, as if debating inside her heart. At last, she whispered, "I will tell you. But when I speak, you must listen. Do not laugh. Do not fear." Jonas nodded. "I will listen." The alien woman lowered the blanket slightly, revealing faint glowing lines across her arms. They pulsed softly, like rivers of light beneath her skin. Jonas stared, but not with disgust, with wonder. "My name is Sarah," she said quietly. "I was born under a sky you have never seen, on a world far from here. My people were once free. We built cities of light, towers that touched the stars. We traveled across galaxies, not for war, but for knowledge. We believed all life had value." Her voice trembled as the memory shifted. "Then they came, the conquerors. They had ships larger than our cities. They burned our skies. They chained my people. They made us slaves. They took our gifts and twisted them into weapons." Jonas listened, silent, his heart tightening. "I was young when the war began," Sarah continued. "I saw my father fall in battle. I saw my mother dragged into chains. They wanted us broken, so they humiliated us, made us less than human, less than alive. We became property." Her hands clenched into fists, the glowing ness on her arms flaring brighter. "But I escaped, I ran. I hid from planet to planet, hunted by their soldiers, their bounty men. They call me traitor because I fled. They call me dangerous because I still carry what my people once had, our light." She lifted her arm, and for a moment the faint glow spread to her fingertips. The room filled with a soft silver light, pure and strange. Jonas stared, breath caught in his throat. It was beautiful, yet heavy with meaning. Sarah lowered her hand quickly, hiding it again beneath the blanket. Her voice grew bitter. "To them, I am not a person. I am property to be dragged back in chains. To the people here, I am dirt to be mocked. And to myself," she paused, her voice breaking, "I am nothing." The silence after her words was heavy. Jonas stood slowly, walking closer. He crouched in front of her so their eyes met. "You are not nothing," he said firmly. "You are alive. And what I saw yesterday, when they threw you into the mud, you did not break. That is not nothing. That is strength." Her silver eyes widened, startled by his conviction. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not since her people fell. She whispered, almost childlike, "Why do you care?" Jonas looked away for a moment, then back at her. "Because I know what it's like to be treated as worthless. I was a poor man in this colony. I grew up being told I would never matter. People mocked me too. Maybe not the way they mocked you, but I remember the sting, and I swore. If I ever saw someone else treated the same, I wouldn't turn away." Sarah's lips trembled. She looked down, unable to speak. Jonas stood, moving to the window. He looked out at the colony streets. His voice grew serious. "But Sarah, if they're hunting you, they'll come again, stronger. And if they know you're here, it won't just be you. I'll be in danger too." Sarah's heart ached. She had danger with her. She whispered, "Leave me. If they come, I will go. I don't want you harmed." Jonas turned sharply, his eyes hard. "No, I will not leave you. I made my choice last night." She looked at him, stunned. "I don't know why you ended up here," Jonas said, his voice steady. "But maybe it was meant to be. Maybe you needed someone who would see you, not as property, not as filth, but as someone worth saving." Tears filled Sarah's silver eyes. She quickly wiped them away, ashamed. "I have no home. No family. Nowhere to go. Jonas walked closer, kneeling again. Then stay here, as long as you need. I will help you. Her breath caught. In all her running, in all her hiding, no one had ever spoken those words. No one had ever offered safety without cost. The workshop grew quiet once more. Outside, life in the colony continued, blind to the secret hidden inside this small room. Sarah finally whispered, "You do not know the risk." Jonas replied softly, but with fire in his eyes, "Then let them come." And in that moment, a bond was born, between a broken alien woman and the quiet man who chose to value her, even when the world did not. The sun rose high, burning hot over the colony. The streets were alive again with trade and noise, but under the surface, whispers traveled fast. Some villagers spoke of the alien woman who had come yesterday. Some said she was cursed. Others said she was dangerous. And some had already told strangers about her, strangers who were not part of the colony. Jonas worked quietly at his bench, repairing a broken chair. Sarah sat in the shadow of the workshop, her blanket pulled tight around her. She had told him her truth the night before, but speaking it aloud had not freed her. It had made her more afraid. If hunters were near, they would not stop until they found her. Jonas noticed her hands shaking. "You feel them, don't you?" he asked gently. She nodded slowly. "They are close, my kind. We can sense when danger follows." Before Jonas could answer, the sound of heavy boots echoed on the street. Not the soft shuffle of colonists, but the hard, sharp rhythm of soldiers. Jonas stood quickly and peered through the crack in the shutters. 3 armored men walked into the square. Their uniforms were dark, their faces hidden behind metal visors. Each carried a strange weapon that hummed faintly, glowing with energy. The crowd hushed as they passed. One of them stopped and addressed the people. His voice was cold, mechanical. "We are searching for an escaped subject. Female, silver skin. If you know her location, speak now, and you will be rewarded. If you hide her, you will suffer." A murmur spread through the colony. Fear and greed twisted together. Sarah shrank against the wall, clutching the blanket as if it could hide her glowing skin. Her breath grew fast, shallow. Jonas turned to her. His jaw tightened. "Stay here. Don't move." She grabbed his arm. "If they find me, they will kill you too." Jonas looked into her silver eyes, firm and unshaken. "Then we don't let them find you." He slipped outside, closing the workshop door behind him. The soldiers were already questioning the fruit seller, the baker, the children who had pointed at Sarah yesterday. Jonas's stomach twisted. People might betray her for safety, or for a handful of credits. He walked calmly toward the well, as if he were only another villager. His heart pounded, but his face stayed still. The soldiers glanced at him but moved on. Jonas kept his head low, pretending to busy himself with the rope of the well. Inside the workshop, Sarah's fear grew. She could hear every step, every metallic voice. Her glowing lines pulsed brighter with her heartbeat, threatening to betray her. She covered her arms, pressing them against her chest, whispering to herself, "Stay calm, stay silent." Then came the knock. Hard, ruthless. The workshop door shook under the force. "Open." A soldier. His voice commanded. Sarah froze. Her breath stopped. The door rattled again. "Open or we break it down." Jonas rushed back, placing himself between the soldiers and the door. He forced a calm voice. "This is my workshop. What do you want?" The visor reflected his face, unreadable. "The creature. She was seen here. Step aside." Jonas's fist clenched, but he forced his tone steady. "There is no one here. Only me." The soldier shoved him back. "Do not lie." Jonas stumbled, but his eyes burned with quiet fire. "I said no one is here." The soldier raised his weapon, the hum growing louder. The villagers watching gasped, backing away. No one would help Jonas. No one dared. Inside, Sarah's body shook. She could hear the weapon charging. If Jonas died, it would be because of her. She could not let it happen. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark. The lines on her arms flared brighter, pulsing with power she had tried so long to bury. Her hands trembled as light seeped between her fingers. Outside, Jonas stood tall, his heart racing but his feet unmoving. "You'll have to kill me first." The soldier's finger tightened on the trigger. Then the workshop door burst open with a blinding flash. Silver light poured out, spilling across the street. The crowd cried out, shielding their eyes. Sarah stepped into the open, no longer hiding. Her arms burned with radiant energy, her eyes blazing like molten stars. The soldiers froze, shocked by the sudden display. "You will not take me," she said, her voice strong and sharp, no longer broken. One soldier aimed his weapon. The beam shot forward, but Sarah raised her hand. The light from her palm met the blast, bending it, scattering it into sparks that fizzled in the air. The crowd gasped in awe. Another soldier charged, but Jonas grabbed a broken wooden beam from his workshop and swung with all his strength. The soldier stumbled, crashing into the dirt. Jonas stood over him, chest heaving. Sarah's power grew brighter, forming a wave of silver energy that pushed the soldiers back. Their weapons crackled uselessly against her shield of light. Fear spread in their voices. "She's stronger than reported. Retreat!" They stumbled away, dragging their injured companion. The crowd parted as the hunters fled into the distance, disappearing down the dusty road. The village fell silent. All eyes turned to Sarah, standing tall in the center of the street, her silver light still glowing. Her chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, her face marked with exhaustion, but also pride. Jonas stood beside her, gripping the broken beam like a weapon. He looked at her with awe, but also with something deeper, respect. The silence broke with whispers. "She is dangerous." "No, she saved him." "What is she?" Sarah lowered her hands. The light faded, leaving only the faint glow of her skin. She looked at Jonas, guilt in her eyes. "Now they know. They will return, stronger." Jonas dropped the beam and placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was steady. "Then we fight. Together." Dust hung in the air long after the soldiers fled. The villagers whispered among themselves, torn between fear and awe. Some looked at Sarah as if she were a monster. Others looked at her as if she were a miracle. But one thing was clear. The hunters would not stop. They would return, and next time, they would come prepared. Jonas helped Sarah back into the workshop. She was pale, her strength nearly gone after using her powers. Her hands trembled as she sank onto the bench. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. "Now everyone knows." Jonas crouched in front of her, his eyes firm. "If you hadn't, I would be dead. You saved me, and you showed them you are not weak." Her silver eyes lowered. "They will see me as a threat. That is all." Jonas shook his head. "Not to me." She stared at him, her breath uneven. In his voice she heard something rare. Belief. The day passed, said in uneasy silence. By evening, word spread that the hunters had contacted others. A larger group was coming. The villagers gathered in small clusters, arguing. Some wanted to give Sarah up to save themselves. Others feared angering the hunters even more. Jonas listened quietly, standing on the edge of the crowd. He could hear their fear, their selfishness. His jaw tightened. They would sell her to save themselves. When he returned to the workshop, Sarah was waiting. She already knew what he had heard. "They will not protect me," she said softly. Jonas sat across from her. "No, they won't. But I will." She looked at him, eyes full of disbelief. "You are only one man. You cannot stand against them." Jonas leaned forward, his voice steady. "Maybe I cannot win, but I can stand. And sometimes, standing is enough." Her heart ached at his words. She had run for so long, always hiding, always bowing to fear. Yet here was a man who had no powers, no soldiers, no strength beyond his hands, and he was willing to fight for her. That night, Sarah did not sleep. She sat in the workshop, watching Jonas sharpen tools and fashion crude weapons from wood and metal scraps. She finally spoke. "Why risk your life for me? Why not give me up and be safe?" Jonas paused, then looked at her. His face was calm, but his voice carried fire. "Because when they threw you into the mud, I saw the truth. You were worth more than they ever believed, and someone needed to stand beside you." Sarah's silver eyes glistened, though she tried to hide it. She whispered, "No one has ever said that to me." Jonas gave a faint smile. "Then maybe it's time someone did." Morning came with the rumble of ships. The hunters had returned, this time with twice as many soldiers. Their boots struck the ground in rhythm, their weapons glowing with deadly light. Villagers scattered, hiding in their homes. Jonas stood outside the workshop, a hammer in one hand, a wooden shield in the other. His heart pounded, but his feet held steady. Sarah stood behind him, her body weak, but her eyes sharp, glowing faintly with the energy she still carried. The lead soldier stepped forward. His voice rang cold. "Give her up, or this colony will burn." Jonas raised his chin. "She stays." The soldier laughed darkly. "One man against us all. Fool." Jonas's grip tightened. "Maybe, but I would rather fall than kneel." The hunters advanced. The villagers watched from windows, holding their breath. No one moved to help Jonas. No one dared. The first soldier swung his weapon, but Jonas blocked it with his shield. The impact rattled his bones, but he did not drop it. He struck back with his hammer, slamming it into the soldier's chest plate. The man staggered. Another soldier came from the side. Jonas turned, raising his shield, but the weapon beam sliced through the wood. The shield splintered. Jonas fell to one knee, breath heavy. Sarah stepped forward. Her arms glowed, light spreading along her veins. She raised her hand, unleashing a wave of silver energy that knocked the soldier back. The blast lit the street, filling the colony with radiant fire. But the energy drained her quickly. She staggered, nearly falling. Jonas caught her arm, holding her steady. "You don't have to do this alone," he said. Her eyes met his. "Nor do you." Together they faced the hunters. Jonas swung with all his strength, his hammer breaking weapons, knocking men to the ground. Sarah fought with light, shielding him from deadly blasts, striking with radiant bursts when her strength allowed. The battle was fierce. Dust and fire filled the street. The hunters outnumbered them, but the two stood as one. Human and alien, weak alone, strong together. At last, when the sun burned high, the remaining soldiers faltered. Their leaders shouted retreat. They dragged their fallen and fled to their ship, leaving the colony scarred but alive. Silence fell. Jonas leaned heavily on. His hammer, his body bruised and bleeding, but his spirit unbroken. Sarah stood beside him, her glow dim but her eyes shining with pride. The villagers stepped out. Slowly, staring at the pair. They had seen something they could not ignore. One man who had stood without fear, and one alien woman who had fought not as a monster, but as a protector. Jonas looked at Sarah, his voice rough but steady. "We stood. That's what matters." Her silver eyes softened. "And you taught me something I had forgotten. Not all battles are run alone." In the broken street, under the watchful eyes of the colony, the bond between them was no longer secret. It was clear, shining like her light. Two souls who had chosen to stand, no matter the cost. The battlefield lay quiet. Dust drifted slowly in the sunlight, settling over broken weapons and scorched earth. The hunters had fled, their ship disappearing into the sky, leaving behind silence and the smell of smoke. Jonas leaned heavily on his hammer, his chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. His arms were bruised, his clothes torn, but his eyes still held the fire of defiance. Beside him, Sarah stood tall, her silver glow dim but steady. She looked exhausted yet unbroken, her chin raised against the stares of the crowd gathering around them. For a long moment, no one spoke. The villagers, who had once mocked her, now looked upon her with wide eyes, some with fear, others with awe. The same people who had thrown her into mud only days ago now saw her as something different. Not filth, not property, but power. A man from the crowd finally stepped forward, his voice uncertain. She saved us." Another villager whispered. "Without her, the hunters would have destroyed everything." But still, others muttered, fear dripping from their words. "She is dangerous. What if more come? What if she brings more war?" Jonas straightened, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "She fought for us when none of you would. She stood beside me when I was alone. If you cannot see her worth now, then you are blind." The villagers grew quiet. His words weighed heavy, sinking into their hearts. Sarah lowered her gaze, uncertain. She had been hated too long to believe acceptance could be real, but Jonas stepped closer, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. His voice softened. "They need to see what I already see." Her silver eyes lifted slowly, meeting his. In them, she saw no mockery, no pity, only respect. The days that followed were uneasy. The colony repaired its streets, patched its walls, and tried to return to routine. Yet whispers of Sarah's light spread like wildfire. Some villagers avoided her, keeping their distance. Others began leaving food at the workshop door, quiet offerings of thanks they could not say aloud. Jonas worked as always, but now he was no longer invisible. When he walked through the market, people greeted him with nods. Some even offered him help. They had seen what he had done, standing against soldiers with nothing but a hammer and courage. But Jonas cared little for their sudden respect. His eyes were always on Sarah, watching her slowly recover. She grew stronger each day, though her eyes often wandered to the sky, filled with both longing and fear. One evening, as the sun bled red across the horizon, Sarah stood outside the workshop, her silver glow faint in the fading light. Jonas joined her, silent at first. "You don't belong here," he said softly. Her head turned sharply, pain flickering in her eyes. "You want me to leave?" He shook his head. "No. What I mean is, you are bigger than this place. You carry something greater than fear. You showed it when you stood against them." She looked away, her voice low. "They will come again. Stronger. If I stay, I bring danger to you, to everyone. Jonas stepped closer. Then let them come. We stood once. We can stand again. Her breath caught. His words warmed her chest but also filled her with sorrow. Why do you risk everything for me? She asked. Jonas looked at her, his eyes steady. Because when everyone else threw you into the dirt, I saw who you really were, and I will not forget it. For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Sarah finally whispered, Where I come from, my people believed in bonds stronger than blood. We called it chosen family. Perhaps that is what you are to me now. Jonas's lips curved into the faintest smile. Then chosen family it is. That night, the colony held a gathering. Torches burned bright as people filled the square. They spoke of fear, of danger, but also of hope. Some wanted Sarah gone, afraid of more hunters. Others argued she was their protector, their shield. Jonas stepped forward, standing tall before them all. His voice rang clear. You call her dangerous, but she is no more dangerous than fire. Fire can burn, but fire also gives light. Without her, you would all be ash. Respect her, or you will never deserve the life she gave back to you. The crowd fell silent. His words left no room for argument. Slowly, one by one, villagers bowed their heads, not in fear, but in respect. Sarah's heart trembled. For the first time since her world was destroyed, strangers saw her not as filth, but as worthy. Tears shimmered in her silver eyes, though she quickly wiped them away. Jonas looked at her, his expression soft. You see, they're learning. Sarah whispered, It feels strange to be seen. Get used to it, Jonas said with quiet strength. Later that night, as the crowd dispersed, Sarah stood beneath the stars. She gazed upward, her eyes tracing constellations that reminded her of home. The ache of loss was still there, but now it was joined by something new, hope. She turned to Jonas. You gave me something I thought I had lost forever, a reason to stand, a reason to fight. He nodded. And you gave me something too, a reason to believe that even the smallest man can matter. They stood in silence, side by side, two Yoon. Likely souls bound by struggle and respect. The night was calm, but far in the distance, Sarah could feel it. The hunters were not done. The war was not over. But for the first time, she was not afraid. Because she was no longer alone. And when the time came, she and Jonas would stand together again.